Great. Hi. So I'm Sam, Day in the Life Photography.
I'm Josh Withers, hello.
So can you tell us a bit about what you do, how you got started?
I'm a marriage celebrant. I make really awesome marriage ceremonies. That's my thing. I want marriage ceremonies to be the best part of the wedding, and I think they deserve that. I think being the business part of the day, that it should be the center point of the event that is the wedding. That's when you get married. That's when the spotlight is shone on you and your partner, and I think the ceremony should just be the best part, the most meaningful part, the most enjoyable part, the most comfortable part. Everything leading up to that is just prepping for that moment that is the ceremony, and everything after that is it's just an after party. It should be an awesome after party, not to downplay everything else in the day, but I think if the ceremony isn't meeting or beating the rest of the day, then the celebrant's done a terrible job.
Yeah, the rest of the day is a celebration of the ceremony.
Yeah, absolutely. So how good is the ceremony? Yeah, absolutely. I like that.
No, that's great. So what do you bring to couples to make that the best part of the day?
I bring, I suppose, me, to be really honest. And I suppose what that means is like a decades of experience as a public speaker, as someone who has led crowds and conversations that matter for years. I bring my PA system. I think sound's really important to a ceremony.
That's a big thing. I've heard there's very massive variance in what different celebrants bring to the ceremony. So good quality one is very useful.
Yeah. I also think there's a really personal nature to the ceremony. So I bring my relationship with you. And I suppose what that means is, obviously, most people before they book me, we don't have a relationship. So my job between now and the ceremony is to form a relationship with you.
So do you meet with couples a couple of times, once, twice before the ceremony, or how does that kind of go?
At least once. At least once, because that's, well, you can't have a relationship without catching up. But I do want to try and get to know you. And that's different for every couple, because it's a personal relationship. So for some of us, it's going to be catch up 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I know some couples have met with like 10 times. And that's not to say that they're like a hard client. Like you might hear that and think, oh, they're only for the really difficult people. But just everyone's different. Everyone communicates differently. Everyone has friendships differently.
Yep.
Everyone has relationships and friendships and these meaningful moments that are weddings, they're different for everyone. And so there's no exact limit. At least once, probably max 400 times. Like
just absolute max.
Absolute max.
Top
$3.99.
Top package, maybe. So, how much input do couples get into the running of the ceremony, and how do they kind of go about that?
You know, I'll answer that in the same way I was answered, and that it's a unique way of asking the question, and I've got a unique answer. Ideally, they have no input into the running of the ceremony, but stay with me.
I'm with you.
Because for 99.99% of my clients, they've never run a ceremony. They've got no idea how to do a marriage ceremony. If you do, then let's have a chat about that. But I'm the expert on that. That's what I do. So when it comes to input, 1,000,000% input on what we do in the ceremony. But as far as actually doing it, I'd hope that I could take the lead on that. Now that's some people could misunderstand that, and I want to make sure everyone understands that it's your wedding, not mine. But in the end, I am running it. I'm the guy with the mic. And so it has to be true for me, true for you, true for the setting, for the environment, for the community gathered around. And so that's why I need to get to know you before the ceremony, because if I don't know you, then I can't do that. And if we haven't talked about, this is special to us, or this is not special to us, or this is an awkward thing, or these people will be in the crowd and that matters for this reason, all of that's really valuable input. But that's not in regards to running the ceremony, it's in regards to the contents of it, what happens, And I ask a lot of questions about that. Like I had a meeting with a couple this morning, and I asked them lots of awkward questions. I said, why me? Why am I your celebrant? I asked, why are you getting married? No one up until this point, they're getting married in a month, no one up until this point has asked them why they're getting married. And that isn't like, I'm going to interrogate you, like, why are you getting married? It's more so, I want to make sure that I know why they're getting married. So that when I talk about it,
so you know what's special to them.
Yeah, I'm knowledgeable about what they're doing. So it's not about me being like a smart ass or something. Yeah. Does that answer that?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And that's what I was getting at. More the content and what's special to them, and you obviously get that from getting to know them and building that really good personal relationship.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And so do you have different packages, or is it just flat basically, I come do your ceremony and we get to know each other, like you said, whether it's 1 or 400 times, whatever's needed?
I have 3 different brands.
Okay.
And each brand has a package.
Right.
Which probably doesn't answer the question well for people that aren't in business. But no, when you go to marriedbyjosh.com and you say, I want Josh to be my celebrant for my wedding, I only have one thing I do. I do really amazing marriage ceremonies.
Yeah.
And that's not, like, it's funny, I always have people, I don't know if you've had this, so we're only having so many guests. And I'm like, there's not really a scenario where number of guests would, I don't know, matter. Like, you're only having 489 guests. Wow. My B package only supports 480 guests. There's obviously a point where a PA system might matter, but no. Yeah. So it's always fun to kind of cute when people say that, like, I don't. It's beautiful that you know how many guests you're having, but like, it just doesn't really matter to me. Yeah. So at marriedbyjosh.com, I have one package. I do one thing well, awesome marriage ceremonies. There's like an add-on to that where I can be your MC. Okay. But that doesn't really happen until we've gone through all the legal hurdles of getting ready for marriage. There's a conflict of interest situation where I need to make sure that you reach the legal requirements for marriage, and then once we've done through those, we'll look at being your celebrant, being your MC. Yeah. But the other brands I have, one of them is called the Elopement Collective, and that's not even my brand, that's my wife's brand, Britt, at elopementcollective.com, and she creates elopements, and she's amazing at that, and I'm obviously the celebrant for those elopements. And we also have another business called the Paperwork Co, where we just literally look after your marriage ceremony paperwork. No guests per se, you do need 2 witnesses. Yep. Sometimes you provide them, sometimes we do, but we just kind of get the paperwork and sign and...
Just make it so it's nice and easy.
Just make it so. Yeah. Because what we value isn't weddings, what we value is marriage. We value marriage and we value celebrating people. And we think that if we can somehow celebrate 2 people, shine the spotlight on them in a way that matters to them, if we can celebrate their marriage and if we can make a marriage, that's a pretty good day. Yeah. It's a good day at work. Yeah. That if I was to leave this earth tomorrow, I think, cool, I've done well. We've made good marriages, we've celebrated people.
Yeah, that's great. No, that's good. Catering to basically 3 different levels of what people want out of a wedding, or more, like you said, out of a marriage. So who would you say, for Married by Josh, who would you say your ideal couple is?
My ideal couple are the couple that they want to get married, and when that happens, they want to have an awesome party. They still value that moment where we all kind of pause, we all kind of, kind of like the record, and we all pause and we just celebrate their marriage beginning. They're the kind of people that they celebrate anniversaries, or they celebrate their first date every year. The time for their first one of the day, or they like Facebook memories, on this day, because they value the little things, those important moments, and they probably value more so experiences over things. The people that hire me, they probably like to get on a plane as opposed to get on a new TV. They like to live life. Yeah. I think that's my ideal client.
Yeah.
Plus, when we get together, we can share recommendations for cafes in Manhattan and stuff like that. Yeah, that's my ideal client, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So how long have you been doing Married by Josh?
I've been a marriage celebrant since May 2009. So
Anniversaries again?
million years ago. Yeah, I became a celebrant on May 2009 after about a year of going through the application process and answering questions and references and all that kind of gear. And that happened after about a year of study, which came after a couple of years of me thinking, I wonder if this could be a thing I do. I wonder if me making marriage ceremonies could actually be a thing.
So when you started looking into that, what was it? Were you married at the time?
No, it wasn't
almost
like
married,
married.
or
I was actually at my auntie's funeral. Not that thing. I was at her wedding, and I distinctly remember driving up to Harvey Bay and just thinking, this is good. Like this moment, this thing we're all going to, this is good. We're excited about this. We're happy that she's getting married. He's a good guy, she's a good chick. They're good for each other. Them being in a marriage, double thumbs up kind of effort. And so we were happy. We were happy and excited. And then it got to the ceremony, and that ceremony didn't reflect that. It reflected, I don't know, a lullaby. It reflected maybe a funeral. It reflected just weird. I don't know. And I thought there was a really awkward disconnect there between the marriage being created and celebrated and what actually happened.
Yeah.
But that was a pretty terrible disconnect. Why did that exist?
okay, yeah.
So that was years ago. That was probably 15 years ago. Still happily married though.
That's great. Well, yeah, that obviously made you clearly bring a lot of enthusiasm and respect to the ceremony.
Yeah, like I've heard of other celebrants and they become a celebrant because it'll be good money.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't think anyone's bought a Lamborghini on celebrant money yet. I don't know whether that's a real thing, but I think it's valuable and I think it's important, and so that's why I do it. And it just so happens that I want to actually build a life off the back of this business, and so thus we charge what we charge and we do what we do, and that's why. Not because we're going to get rich, or not because we're going to roar to everyone and rip them off, but because we think this is valuable, we think this is important. And yeah, that's what we do.
You clearly want to do it well.
Yeah. No one wants a terrible ceremony. Like, I kind of imagine that right now, as people are watching this, like no one's sitting there thinking, still tossing up, do we have a good wedding or a shit wedding? No, let's not rule out shit wedding.
Okay, and so final thoughts. If you can give one piece of advice to couples at any part of their planning stage for their wedding, what do you think it would be?
Just question everything. And what I mean by that is not to be a douchebag and just like, now, why? But if you're doing something, know why you're doing it. If you're getting married, know why. Because when you know your why, that'll flow right through everything else that you're doing on the day. That'll flow through the theme or the clothes or whatever. Like, if you're just wearing a wedding dress because that's what you do at a wedding, then you're not going to value the wedding dress. But if you're wearing a dress because you love that dress and this is a valuable day to you and you want to honor the event by dressing appropriately, then wear a nice dress because that's what you do when you go to nice places, as opposed to just doing stuff because that's what you do. Like in many of my ceremonies, as we're exchanging rings, I'll say, I hope today you're not exchanging a ring because that's what you do at a wedding. I hope that today you're exchanging a ring because you want a symbol on your hand that says, I am married. And that's awesome. And you can look at that ring and say, yeah, married, life is really good because I'm married. Yeah. That's what I hope is happening. And so everything is happening. Like, if you don't value photography, I don't know how you got to this video, but if you don't hire a photographer. There's no legal requirement for you to have a photographer. And I'm sure, like would you hate rocking up at a wedding if they didn't value what you did? Like,
No.
would that be the worst day?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, would you just rather be in bed?
No, it doesn't make for a good time if you're not there because you want to be there and have all the certain things that you've got there.
I had a couple who they didn't want videography, but mum did. And so mum hired a videographer, and the videographer had a terrible day because the videographer's being paid, I think they're about $4,500 videographer. Video's expensive. It's intensive.
It is a lot of work.
And so they've been paid a lot of money to turn up and just be hated all day. Like, money's nice.
Yeah.
Being appreciated is better. So if you value something, get it. And if you can't afford it, save or scrimp or just don't have it or whatever. But just let everything on the day be valuable and purposeful and meaningful, and let it just let that be the theme of the day. That everything that's there has purpose and meaning. If you're gonna toss a bouquet, know why you're doing it. Even if it's just for fun, at least then you know why.
Yeah.
You know, I had a couple of few weeks ago, and I was emceeing the reception, and I said, "Do you need to do you need to cut the cake?" So we don't know why you cut the cake. So I don't know why you cut the cake. Actually, do you know why they cut the cake? I don't know why. I've always heard weird reasons. But the photographer goes, we need to get the cutting the cake shot. I said, they don't want to get a cutting the cake shot, and I don't want to get a cake in the cake shot. And she said, well, I want to cut in the cake shot. Well, if you want to cut in the cake shot, there's a knife.
It's a little selfie.
Yeah, it's a little selfie. She managed to convince the couple to get one, and that's cool. You know, do what you like. It's fine.
Yeah.
But just don't cut the cake if you don't want to cut. Like, the kitchen staff are very capable of cutting cakes, and in fact, if you don't want a cake, don't have a cake. Just drop the cake. You don't need a cake. But if you want a cake, have 1,000 cakes. And so I'm not advocating for or against any particular thing.
For or against cakes, no.
No, man, I am not going to be the guy that said he was against cakes. That will not be good for business. Imagine being the celebrant, the anti-cake celebrant. Anticakecelebrant.com.
It's a niche market.
Me and my 5 mates will stand over here. Yeah, fuck cooks. We'll have signs made up, it'll be great.
Patched up.
Gosh. At least they'll remember something from this.
Yeah.
Hashtag fuck cakes.
Alright, no, that's awesome. Thank you very much. Great note to end on.
I'm sorry, Mum. I'm sorry to disgrace you like this.
Just have to make sure I don't interview any cake makers.
Oh, God. The last thing I need to do is defriend the cake makers. I love cakes. Thanks, mate.
Cool, mate. Thanks a lot.